Just before midnight on the night before Thanksgiving, the Supreme Court blocked New York Governor Andrew Cuomo from enforcing attendance limits at religious services. The vote is 5-4 with Roberts and 3 liberals dissenting. And the ruling, which you can, I'm not going to obviously read through the entire ruling, but basically what had happened was that they found that the limits were quote unquote unconstitutional, so they blocked it. So if you are in New York, and living in obviously this or going to church, or it was illegal for you to do so, depending on what your capacity was, that has essentially been overturned because it's a religious institution and it violates whatever constitutional amendments and so forth. But here's my thing about this, and you would think that if their best case scenario, the Supreme Court will rule like this on virtually every subject where they say you cannot fucking do that, dude. But unfortunately, they do not. And that's just kind of the reality. But I wish that this applied to generally every fucking thing else. Right. I'm religious, if you will, or rather, I don't like to think of myself religious, but do believe in Christ. And still, I don't think that should be limited to religious institutions. And I'm not saying that the Roman Catholic, church in New York or religious institutions in New York think that it only should apply to them. They just made enough noise to get the Supreme Court, put them on notice, right? And I just don't think that should obviously be limited to religious institutions. Well, it's not that I don't think, it should not. What am I talking about? It shouldn't. It shouldn't be limited to religious institutions as well. So you can see this as a victory, which I get it. But you could make the argument that every single of these lockdown or executive orders, which are essentially just the governors being able to say, you know what, I don't want you guys to do this, or I want you to do that. And here it is. Now it's a mandate, and now you must do it. Or I'm going to send my goons to come rough you up a little bit if in the event that you decide not to listen. But the problem is that I think we focus way too much on which institutions should be able to not necessarily violate, but should be able to operate at capacity before this whole nonsense and the mandates, instead of looking at it as, well, Cuomo is just a jackwagon and he could go screw himself, which it should be that simple. Like, dog, it ain't your decision to be making, to be deciding whether it be religious institution or the gym owner or the bakery or the gym, I just said that, or anything, whatever specialty store, it doesn't matter in terms of what capacity, restaurant, what capacity they can operate in. That's not your decision to make. And we've seen so many. Cuomo, it's like Cuomo and what's the dude, California, Newsom, are trying to outdo each other, right? And trying to present themselves as these heroes and the people that care so much about everybody and caring about everybody. It's always dealing with shutting things down, right? And they're basking in this. They always got something to say. Cuomo is probably worse because he's always on TV, and they gave him an Emmy for it, believe it or not. And he's always doing these conferences and he's saying these updates like every day, and he's lecturing people on what they must do. Had the nerve to even call police officers that would not enforce these draconian measures. Even had the nerve to call them the dictator. He is absolutely basking in his power. Basking in it. They love it. They absolutely love it. And they do stuff like this, and as I've always said, it's authoritarianism with, you mask that authoritarianism with humanitarian efforts. That's how they get away with it. But while I can understand why this could be considered a victory, It doesn't go nearly as far enough, though. Of course, it's the Supreme Court. They're going to handle it on a case-by-case basis. But we've seen so many executive orders. We've seen so many measures. In fact, a lot of them are ramping back up because we're entering into another flu season. Cases is all they talk about. So as the cases go up, then they feel as if they have to shut people down. None of these should be something that is unique to religious institutions. And again, I want to reiterate I'm not suggesting that the religious institutions are the ones that are saying that they should be the only ones that are exempt from this. All I am saying from the perspective of, freedom, that it should not be limited to them. And I'd make the argument, and I have been making the argument since March, that all of these laws, or rather the mandates that they're calling laws, should be fought. And these power-hungry county judges and governors and politicians should be told to go screw themselves. Now, my argument has been that it should not have to come from the Supreme Court lecturing people on or saying, well, you can't do that. Or it shouldn't have to come from a politician trying to block something. I've argued time and time again, you've heard me on the News and Why It Matters over at Blaze TV, me constantly telling that this does not end. I don't think it ends until there's mass forms of civil disobedience. Until there's mass forms of civil disobedience. Until there's so many people that say, you know what, we are going to go about our lives as before. Maybe we have new safety metrics or measures that we implement, but we're going to go about our lives. That may be the only time this ends. But as long as there's just mass compliance, and I get it why there's mass compliance, because it's the punishment. People don't generally want to be dealing with that. They don't want to deal with going to jail. They don't want to deal with having to take stuff to court or something like that. So I completely understand. I think every single individual is different in terms of if that's a risk that they can take, ideally. But I do believe that those that can take it, there's many of those do take it, especially business owners, especially people that operate, own places where people congregate in some sort of way, be it in going to the store, doesn't matter what it is, church, gyms, just anywhere. And they just say, so you offer a good or a service, and people come to get it. And until people say, you know what, screw the mandates, screw the governor, screw all of them, we just gonna go about our business. I don't think that this ends until that happens. That's been my argument that I've been making for a while. It doesn't end until then, right? So while I understand why people would consider this a victory, got a long way to go.